Hey guys, it's Daniel, licensed therapist. Dating. It could be tough. It's a jungle out there, I know, and it could be a very confusing, mysterious process, but that's why your guy is here, the pro, to help you navigate this crazy experience, demystify it, so that you'll know whether to make a good decision or not. And by the end of this video, you'll have 5 questions you can ask the person you're dating and what to look out for each of these questions so that you will know whether you're gonna have to say I do or if you should run. Let's get right into it. Question number 1, tell me about your childhood. And I know that's more like a statement, but it's that age-old therapy trope, right? You've seen it in the movies. That person is sitting there looking at the ceiling. The therapist is there doing something like this, and he asks a question, tell me about your childhood. But I think you and I know that your childhood has so much to do with who you are today. So asking about someone's childhood is kind of like popping the hood of the car and taking a look at the engine. So what are we looking for when we ask about someone's childhood? Well, specifically, we want to know about pain. Where have they been hurt? And pain is associated with the word trauma. And when we talk about trauma, there's 2 kinds of trauma out there. There's big T trauma, which is something like being in a car accident, being so afraid of being hurt or dying or actually being hurt. And then you have the PTSD symptoms, which is terrible, but that's not exactly what we're looking for. We're looking for little t traumas, the traumas that are hurts that occur many times over a long period of time. And specifically, we're looking for these hurts to occur within the most important relationships in childhood, in those formative years. And why are we looking for little t traumas? Well, it's those childhood relationships and the nature of those relationships that are so important, and they form our idea of what a relationship is. What's normal? What should we look out for? Should we be afraid? Should we be able to trust? All of these things are sort of set when you're a kid and in what you experience in your relationships as a kid. So that's why we have question number 1. And I say that that is the most important question that we have to ask and really understand the answers to that question. Question number 2, tell me about your past relationships. And what are we looking for in this question? Well, we're specifically looking for patterns. Is there a pattern that we see in their past relationships? And there might not be a pattern, but usually we manifest the relationships that we know, that we're familiar with. So if we see a pattern in relationships, that's going to tell us a tremendous amount about the person. So we want to know things like how many relationships, how long the relationships were, how they ended, the course of the relationships. And with that information, if we can start to see a theme, I think that could be very telling about the person that you're dating. The 3rd question, tell me about your friendships. So it's another relationship question, I know, but friendships and your social life is so important and is such a big reflection of who you are. So what are we looking for when we ask about someone's friendships? Well, we're looking for stability. Do they have stable relationships? So if we're looking for stability, we are also looking for instability or red flags, curious relationships. And some curious patterns or red flags might be a girl who has friends with all guys, or a guy who has friends with all girls. Maybe someone has no friends, or maybe they just have a lot of friends, but none of them are very close. Maybe they do have friends and they appear to be close, but they have a pattern of very short and intense relationship with friends, and then they move on and develop other friends that are short and intense. So I can't tell you exactly all the patterns that are there, but the human being is very intuitive. And something in you will say, that's not right. And it's not the nail in the coffin. I'm not telling you to stop dating that person, but it is something to explore. So far, the 3 questions that I've gone over have been about relationships. And they've been pretty standard questions that anyone would probably ask someone that they were dating. But this 4th question is a very interesting one, and I feel like is very rarely asked. I think people don't even know to ask this question, but it's tell me about your relationship with yourself. Did you know that you treat yourself a certain way? Yes, it's true. You do have a sort of internal dialogue with yourself, and there is a way that you do treat yourself. So, how you treat yourself is a big insight into how you see yourself. And ideally, someone would see themselves as amazing and wonderful and valuable and precious. And when someone sees themselves like that, they have a strong sense of self and they're very confident. And if they aren't like that, then that could mean trouble in the relationship. And it just means that that person has a little work to do. Is that the nail in the coffin as well? No, I wouldn't say so. But if they don't treat themselves well, it's definitely something to investigate because it can very well manifest in a lot of difficulty in a relationship. And the last question is, tell me about your non-negotiables. And this is just a very practical thing. It's not necessarily a therapy or mental health thing, but I've seen this go really bad. I've seen people who have been married and one person wants to have a kid and the other person doesn't. And they think it'll be fine. Let's just get married. You're great. And later on, they have to get a divorce because they're just too far apart on this issue. So get it all out of the way while you're dating. Ask about the person's non-negotiables. Be honest about yours because we want to avoid that. So those are the 5 questions you can ask. And besides number 5, the 4 questions that I'm telling you to ask them have a lot to do with relationships and has a lot to do with their own personal health. And your own mental health is a direct indication of how you will be in a relationship, if you'll be healthy or unhealthy. Because what is the indicator of future health? It's current health. And we don't know what's going to happen in relationships. All we could do is place a bet on a person. But we want to hedge our bets. We want to evaluate and make sure we push all our chips in on the best person possible. And then we could look down the road 20, 30, 40, 60 years down the road and say, this is going to be something good. And this is the person I want to go down this road with. And I do feel like after asking some of these questions, the person will say, you know what? I've overcome all of that stuff. The thing is, change is hard. People don't just overcome these things. If they do say something like that, you're going to have to get a very detailed narrative and an explanation on how they were able to overcome those things. They had a difficult childhood, but they've overcome that. How did they do that? What happened inside of them? What are they thinking? What are they feeling? How do they see themselves? How do they see relationships? Can they trust people? Can they commit to people? How are they able to overcome the difficult childhood? It is possible. In fact, I think it's available to everybody. That's the business I'm in, to help people overcome things. But they're going to need to explain themselves. And I know some of you out there are thinking, Daniel, I've answered a lot of these questions negatively. My friend groups, there's negative patterns there. My dating history, negative patterns. My childhood, filled with little T's. Well, this is what I would say to you. You can overcome all of that stuff. You can. I've seen people overcome the craziest things. And I would tell you and advise you just to work on it. Go on a healing journey. Focus on yourself. And get healthy emotionally. Because if you're not, it will be difficult to have a healthy emotional relationship with somebody. So just take some time. That's my. But some people think, you know what, Daniel? That's just too much work. It's just too hard. I can't do it. I can't overcome. I don't have the strength. I don't have the ingenuity. I don't have the time. I don't have the money. Well, I would say this to you. It's worth it. If you don't believe me, check out this video I did of the secret to happiness. Do you disagree with me? If you do, put in the comments down there and let's argue out. Thanks for watching.